Today, my cleaning business does over $40K a month. And the best part about it is I do it all remotely. No scrubbing toilets, no being on site, just managing everything from my laptop and phone. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it month by month so you can just copy me. This is before I started any cleanings. I had no cleaners, I had no clients. I just had an idea. So my starting amount was relatively small, and I was looking for a business model that allowed me to be remote while I was still working my job, but also build something that had some real tangible value in the world. I didn't want to do something that was all digital that potentially could be replaced with AI one day. I wanted something that was recession proof, something that I know I could depend on month over month for stability, because my job was unstable at the time, which is why I found remote cleaning, and specifically cleaning, as my avenue for actually getting started. I chose cleaning because it's an ongoing service that always needs demand. The relative experience to get started is low. You don't need a bunch of licenses or certifications. Some other home service trades, you will need to get those, which is a huge time commitment to even get. And I didn't want to go through that at the time. I was looking to find an opportunity that I could cash flow quickly and then continue to delegate myself out from there. The things that I was kind of fearful of or scared of, and were my main concern starting, was, can I actually do this remotely? And do I have enough time with my job to actually be able to execute a business plan and a side hustle? So using that few $1,000s I had, that was kind of how I started my journey and got everything going. And by the way, since I started teaching this system, I've had students like Sarah who hit 10K a month in under a month using these exact steps. So once I decided, hey, this is a good idea, I want to get started in it, then actually comes doing of the business. So that's really that first phase of the business, and I would call it your survival mode. You're trying to go from 0 to 1. You're trying to make this a real thing. And really that's kind of like your first 1 to 3 months, in my case, of trying to get this business off the ground. So during my first month, my revenue was hovering in the range of around $1,500. So not that much to speak of, but my core focuses during that first month was to get a business set up, right? The legal, the admin, the software, the systems, everything ready to go. When we started the hiring, we started the sales, everything was set up properly. And during those first months, I primarily used cold outreach as well as some digital paid ads to acquire my first customers. So that would include cold calling, cold DMing on social media platforms, and then answering inbound sales calls from digital marketing platforms. And that was how I was able to do it completely remotely. For me, since I had a bit of sales background, that stuff came relatively easy and was pretty straightforward. Now, the things that were a little bit more challenging for me had to do with the hiring side, stuff that I hadn't personally done before. So some of the biggest mistakes that I made through going through that process, I'm going to walk you through them right now so you can keep this in mind when you're going through this process yourself and hopefully avoid the things that I went through. So I think the number one thing is you're thinking, as soon as I start this, I need to get revenue, I need to get clients, and that's the only thing I should think about, and that's the only thing that matters. And what I would tell you is it's kind of the opposite. What's more important in the initial stages is actually to get great cleaners that you can reliably send to your client's home. I'll tell you from my own firsthand experience, I definitely hired the wrong people to show up to the cleanings. And I remember my first ever cleaning that I ever had, my cleaner didn't even show up. I went through the process of learning the hard way and not having a regimented system of actually going through and vetting the cleaners and having an onboarding process that would ensure that you can successfully service your clients. I took one step forward only to take 2 steps back after having a bad hiring process in place. The other mistakes that I kind of learned during this period of time was around of how I was handling my sales calls. Now, I can have good conversations with individuals and build rapport, but I think in the back of my head, I kept thinking, hey, I need to continue to discount my services just so I can get sales in the door. And ultimately, now that I'm a little bit further down the road, I realized I was just discounting my service just to discount my service. In retrospect, I should have just sold my services at the price that I initially set, which would have naturally attracted the customers that I wanted. So what I learned about my pricing is that I needed to have certainty in it, and I had not done the homework to actually know how to price things. Therefore, it caused me to make sales mistakes, which, if you're discounting your services, ultimately will cause you to have lower profit margins, which is obviously something you don't want. So yes, you can be having sales, but your profit margin can suffer if you're doing too much of that. One of my students, Mike, actually avoided all of these mistakes that I'm talking about and was able to scale to 10K in just 23 days using this method. So in months 2 and 3, I was able to figure out the hiring problem. I was able to figure out my pricing and how I was selling over the phone. And ultimately, I was able to scale by the end of the 3rd month to 10K a month. So those skills alone, I was able to accomplish quite a bit in a short period of time, while having a job and managing and juggling both those things. However, during that period of time, it was very clear to me that I was still doing everything. I did everything in the company. Everything was stuck in my head, so to speak. If I, got sick or anything happened to me, the business was going to be in jeopardy. I really didn't have any systems to predictably run this company. So yes, I had that number. I hit 10K and that's great. However, there's nothing on the back end to prevent anything from occurring. So I knew that, hey, if I'm going to get to the next level in this business, I'm going to have to install a set of systems so this can actually grow without my attention 24/7. By the way, if you want my complete scaling system that I use to build my business to 40K plus months, the same system my students use to hit 10K months, click the link in the description below. So the second phase, which happens after you kind of go from 0 to 1, like it's a real company, there's real revenue, there's real profits, we're growing. I would call this second phase really the growth engine phase. This is really when you're starting to understand the marketing and sales side very well. You understand the hiring side very well. And now you're starting to put systems that lay on top of that so you can continue to grow. So from a sales and marketing side, I honestly had everything all over the place. It was almost like pen and paper in terms of how I was tracking all of my information. And that was when I took the time to really build a system to track all my customers, to track follow-ups, to have sequences to nurture them, to have a specific sales process I run every single time to ensure that all of my quoting goes properly and my cleans go successfully because all of the quoting was done well. And that, by having that system, allowed me to layer more marketing channels in to increase our lead flow. And the most important part there is if you don't have that system, adding leads will then create operational bloat in your company and you're going to have inefficiencies and your numbers will start to go down, or at least that's what you will notice. So something that I learned in the growth engine phase of the company, if I don't have that, it doesn't matter how much more marketing I'm going to do, I'm going to be dropping the ball all over the place. So during that kind of month 4, month 5, I was in that 20K range just from installing the system, which allowed me to handle more throughput. So from the hiring side, it's almost the same equation. I had a system to repeatably get great cleaners on board, which then allowed me to apply that to more location. Okay, so I had an initial service area, and then basically I had cleaners that were servicing that area. And in order to grow, I expanded that service area. So in order to handle more cleaners in more areas, you have to have a good system for onboarding these cleaners predictably and reliably. And by doing so, I was able to onboard cleaners basically into 5 different sub-locations within my bigger service area, which allowed me to service more clients and grow even further in terms of our company reach. And in month 6, I really took the business to the next level, and that was because I created great offers for my existing client base. And the way that I structure my offers is specifically to incentivize long-term value. I save that strategy for everyone that's inside growth cleaning, but the concept remains the same. That's pretty much what I'm trying to achieve. I want to have lifetime value, not just one-time cleanings from my clients. And just by having that offer shift, I basically jumped from 20K to 30K a month by the end of the 6th month. So massive jump in revenue, but it also came from having the systems in place initially to ensure that that growth occurred. So that's kind of the second phase I would call in the business of really growing the company. As you can tell, like that was really understanding how do I build good systems around the client acquisition side? How do I build good systems on the hiring side? And once I have that in place, do I actually have a good offer that can scale within my service location? Which now leads us to the final phase, which I call the business owner mode. This is really the most exciting time and the reason why a lot of people get into the business of how do I get myself out of the business? I've been doing all this stuff. I've been working really hard. I've been juggling my, personal life, my job, this side hustle, and how do I now elevate myself beyond it? At the time, this is kind of like where you're at the 30K level. I notice a lot of people will tap out as a solopreneur at this level just because the workload is too much. Like you're going to have way too much on your plate to be able to execute things like this. And to be honest with you, you could probably do it a little bit earlier, but this is just the way that I did it. I probably did it a little late. Had I redone this over again, I would have done this earlier. But this phase of the business is understanding how do I build my internal support team and management team that is not the cleaners in the field anymore. So that's understanding how do I source and hire talent internally? Do I have systems that actually are documented on how to use them in place? Do I have SOPs for everything that happens in my company? Is there organization behind that? So someone can actually step into the role that you once had. Otherwise, if you don't have any of those things, and I've done this firsthand, it is a blind leading the blind situation, which is the worst case in the world. Otherwise, you're bringing in talent only to set them up for failure. I can tell you from my own experience, I went through 8 or 9 first hires for the management team, and they all did not work out long term because I did not have the infrastructure set up in place for them to be onboarded and trained properly as well as managed properly. But by having these systems in place, this allowed me to do 2 things. It allowed me to keep growing while saving me time. which is the beauty of this portion of the business, because now you are leveraging two things. You're leveraging labor and you're leveraging technology. Those are two massive levers in terms of how you scale this company and get it to becoming an automated asset. So this is how I was able to scale to 40K a month by the end of the 9th month. It was through this process of building the team internally. And that team structure now runs without me. And the time commitment required to actually run the day-to-day operations for me, not my team, but for me personally, is now 1 to 2 hours a day tops. Which when I got into this business in the first place, that was the initial goal of like what I was trying to accomplish, was get a cash flowing business that was a boring business, build it to the point where everything structurally was in place, and then start to remove myself gradually from the day to day. That way I can ensure that it's in good hands, it's being managed properly, and we're still profitable. I'm gonna go over 5 game-changing decisions that I had during this process, just to reiterate it one more time. It's in no order, but I'll just go through them. From decision number 1, when to hire your first internal person. I would say don't do what I did. Don't wait till it's too late and you're swamped with work. Be proactive about bringing in help earlier. Realize that you as the entrepreneur cannot do everything yourself. So timing matters more here. Otherwise, you inevitably will stop growing because there's only one of you. And this actually will free you up to grow more once you've accomplished this. Decision number 2 was having a premium pricing strategy. So that is really just focusing on value as opposed to price. And that comes from understanding your market dynamics. That way you can confidently sell on the phones and not continue to discount your services and ultimately lower your profit margins. That was a critical thing for me to understand in the initial stages, so I can get to kind of that initial sales, get more confidence, and then grow my company to that 0 to 1 moment of getting to 10K. Third decision is really having systems over perfect people. You have to understand that when you're running a business, listen, you're going to have a lot of people come through your company. If you don't have a repeatable system on the sales side, on the hiring side, on the management side, you are not going to be able to repeat results over time. Having good systems in place, really that second phase that I talked about, the growth engine, that was the huge understanding unlock there. Having good systems and not thinking I have to have the perfect person to be able to execute this business. Decision number 4 was focusing on recurring revenue. That's shifting from the one-time mentality to understanding how do I design offers to grow my lifetime value. The growth engine, when I went from 20 to 30K, if I had to tell you what I realized, that was the single most important thing I realized that unlocked the growth. And then the 5th decision was really understanding, once I have the management team on my side in place, how do I build them to be managers within my organization? Having good SOPs, having good systems, having good best practices that ultimately will allow them to make good decisions when you're not there. And when they can do that, they can be a manager of your business, and you'll be surprised at how great their work can be. So those are 5 decisions that really changed the game for me. And looking back on the experience, what I do differently, there's a couple things that come to mind as well. I wish I knew how to price my company services accurately and then also have great offers. That way I didn't have to figure that out in months 5 and 6. And also just in general, how to allocate my money. I didn't know where to put the resources when and what dictated my decision-making skills there. In the current state of my business now is we have roughly around 17 cleaners at any given point. Our internal team is comprised of 3 support team members. My weekly time commitment is, like I said before, about an hour or 2 a day max. And my role is much different now. I focus on high-level strategy of the business. I help the support team with nuanced problems when they pop up. And I manage the team based on a scorecard KPI criteria. And ultimately, I want to create leaders within my team to continue the growth of my company. So that's exactly how I went from 0 to 40K plus months in 9 months, managing everything remotely. If you want my complete step-by-step system for scaling a remote cleaning business, including all my templates, hiring processes, training materials, click the first link in the description below. Subscribe to the channel. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Peace.